Hi, so this is a bit of a test to see if you have certain things installed correctly on your machine. Shouldn't take very long. And you don't actually have to use this data, but this is just a step to go through. We're going to see if ArcGIS Pro is configured correctly, which it should be if you've actually installed the machine. All right. So for this test, we're just going to download some data. If you go back to Lesson 2, on the course materials, Lesson 2, Intro to Model Builder, here's a file called class.gdb. Let's go ahead and download that, and if you could, just download it somewhere really simple, like C:temp or something like that, somewhere local on your machine that is not too complicated a path. It doesn't have a bunch of spaces in the name, or it's not 9 layers deep. This is just to give us some data to see if we can do some basic functionality with Python within the ArcPro environment. Okay, so it's through downloading, and by the way, I'm using Chrome. Hopefully whatever you're using produces the same result. I'm going to do a show in folder, and there it is. Here's my zipped file, and I'll right click on it, do an extract all, and I'll just leave it in that exact location. I don't really like when it does that. So we'll do an extract. And you can see we have class.gdb. Here's my geodatabase. So if we were to open, say, ArcCatalog, and to look at it through ArcCatalog, we should be able to see that there are some feature classes in there. I'm sorry, and this is using the ArcGIS desktop catalog. And you can see, whoops, got that running in the background. You can see that in my C:temp class.gdb, I have 4 feature classes right here. And so if I were to preview one of these, let's see here. I'm going to just open Notepad. This will give you the full path for that particular feature class. So we're just going to do that. And mostly I just wanted to get something by which we can do a test. After that, let's fire up ArcGIS Pro. And again, you can do the same thing in the ArcGIS desktop. You'll just be using a different version of Python. So for these exercises, I thought we would try to use the newer version. And there are some differences, but we'll see about this. And let's see, let's just create a brand new map. Hopefully you've already signed in. If you haven't, I had to sign in with my FRCC BCC Connect account. I think yours is slightly differently. So if you don't know this, you might want to ask Jen what it is. So we'll create a new project, and I'll just call it Test Python 2. And you'll notice that ArcGIS Pro has some similarities with ArcGIS Desktop, but there's a lot more stuff in here, and it requires a little bit of translation, probably like the difference between Spanish and Portuguese. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and you can speak to each other, but not exactly the same at all. Okay, so we have a number of windows here. We're not going to look at any of these. For now, let's just go up to View and click on Python. And you'll notice down here below we have a Python window. Now essentially this is an immediate interpreter, so that when you type in a command, if it's fully formed, it will run and you'll get a result. So you can't put a whole lot of Python syntax in here. So of course the first thing you should always try is print hello world. Okay, so that is a valid Python statement. Well, we'll see. And when you execute it by hitting enter, here's the result: hello world. Okay, had you done this, you should get a syntax error. So actually this one is perfectly valid in Python version 2, but in version 3 you absolutely have to include everything within the parens. During this period of transition from one version of Python to another, if you start getting errors that you can't understand, or even if before you begin, you might want to see which version of Python you're actually with. And there's multiple ways of doing that. Within Python itself, you can do something like this. I can't remember, is that? Okay, so you can tell that this is the version of Python that you're actually running. If you were to do that within ArcGIS Desktop, it'll probably say 2.7, something like that. So you're going to, as we transition, you're going to run into some weird environment things, especially if both versions of the software are on the same machine. So one thing you definitely want to do is make sure you verify what version you have. You notice that we typed in this import sys. That's basically a module or a library that we've imported into Python, which gives us more commands to work with. And within this environment, the ArcGIS Pro environment, and within multiple other integrated environments that are designed for development, when you do that, then sometimes they give you this sort of intelligent prompt. So if I were to type sys dot, then it would give me a list of things that are available, commands that are available within that module. Let's see, sys.version. Okay, so yeah, if I type sys.version info, it's telling me the major's 3, which is this, minor 6, micro 8. So, you know, just more version info to give you an idea. One thing, when we've opened ArcGIS Pro, by default it should have the ArcPy library loaded, which is specific to Esri. So if we type ArcPy dot, now we've got a whole bunch of things that are coming up here. So it's very nice in that it's prompting you with a bunch of commands. Let's see, can we find the one we're after here? Oh, I see. Exists. Now, I typed it in, but you don't have to type it in. This is just a very basic command, and I'm going to take this string that lists the actual path, and I'm going to enclose it in single quotes, and let's see if this works. And it may very well not. Yeah, false. So one of the things that happens with Python is when you include it in here, it interprets things like this /t as a tab because of escape characters. And then if I were to just use my up arrow here, I should be able to recall this. One thing you're going to find out, there's multiple ways to pass strings into Python so that it reads them literally instead of translating things sort of without you realizing it. If I use the lowercase r directly before that that first quote and then hit enter, yeah, so it evaluates it's true. So it literally takes C:/temp as opposed to C:/tab imp. So if you can get this far, then we've proven that basically you have the right version of Python, and that you have ArcPy installed, and that's going to be very important, and that you have at least figured out how to do one of these ways of specifying a full path. So this is a nice little confidence builder. See if you can get this done. You know, as I recall, when I did this, I had spent probably 30 minutes trying to figure out how to log in. So that was actually my biggest problem. And we're going to find out when we bring in PyCharm that we're going to have a different way of specifying which version of the software to use. But anyway, this is a good confidence builder. See if you can get this to work.